Shalom, shalom. Lucas chapter 6, verse 21. Blessed are you who hunger now, because you shall be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep now, because you shall laugh. Blessed are you when men shall hate you, and when they shall cut you off, and shall reproach you, and cast out your name as wicked, for the sake of the Son of Man. Rejoice, rejoice, family. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy. For look, your reward is great in the heaven, for that is how their fathers treated the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, because you are receiving your comfort. Woe to you who have been filled, because you shall hunger. Woe to you who are laughing now, because you shall mourn and weep. Woe to you when all men speak well of you, for thus their fathers did to the false prophets. But I say to you who are hearing, love your enemies, do good to those hating you, bless those cursing you, and pray for those that are insulting you. And to him who hits you on the one cheek, offer also the other. And from him who takes away your outer garment, do not withhold the inner garment. And give to everyone who asks of you, and from him who takes away what is yours, do not ask for it back. And as you wish men should do to you, you also should do to them in the same way. And if you love those loving you, what favor have you? For sinners too love those loving them. And if you do good to those doing good to you, what favor have you? For even sinners do the same. And if you lend to those from whom you expect to receive back, what favor have you? For even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much back. Rather, love your enemies and do good and lend, expecting nothing in return, and your reward shall be great, and you shall be the sons of the Most High, because he is kind to the thankless and wicked ones. Therefore, be compassionate as your Father also is compassionate. And do not judge, and you shall not be judged at all. Condemn not, and you shall not be condemned at all. Forgive, and you shall be forgiven. Give, and it shall be given to you, a good measure, pressed down and shaken together, and running over, shall be put into your lap. For with the same measure with which you measure, it shall be measured back to you. And he spoke a parable to them. Is a blind able to lead the blind? Shall they not both fall into the pit? A taught one is not above his teacher, but everyone perfected shall be like his teacher. And why do you see the splinter in your brother's eye, but are not aware of the plank in your own eye? Or are you able to say to your brother, Brother, let me take out the splinter that is in your eye, not seeing the plank in your own eye? Hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you shall see clearly to take out the splinter that is in your brother's eye. For a good tree does not yield rotten fruit, nor does a rotten tree yield good fruit. For each tree is known by its own fruit. For they do not gather figs from thorns, nor do they gather grapes from a bramble bush. The good man brings forth what is good out of his good treasure of his heart, and the wicked man brings forth what is wicked out of the wicked treasure of his heart. For out of the overflow of the heart his mouth speaks. But why do you call me Master, Master, and do not do what I say? Everyone who is coming to me and is hearing my words and is doing them, I shall show you whom he is like. He is like a man building a house, who dug deep and laid a foundation on the rock. And when the flood came, the stream burst against that house and was unable to shake it, for it was founded on the rock. But the one hearing and not doing is like the man that built his house on the earth without a foundation, against which the stream burst, and immediately it fell, and the ruin of that house was great. Shalom, shalom. May you go in shalom. Love one another. Be long-suffering and endure with long patience with each other. Bring the kingdom coming to everyone, because that is what's next. But before that, we know there needs to be great, great tribulation. Pray for one another. Pray for the world, because it's going to be so bad for those who refuse and reject. A third mishpaka, a third will die. The Euphrates River has completely dried up now. I don't know if you're aware or watching, but that is what's going on. Earthquakes have ramped up, have completely ramped up, and they're getting larger and larger. And one can make the case that it is the devices of the evil one, right? In the hierarchy of military causing these chemtrails and earthquakes and SERN. However, we also know that Father sits on his throne and he remains on it. Our Mashiach remains on his throne. He sits down at the right hand of the Father. He is our Melchizedek forever. No other priesthood will exist ever again. This is forever. And so he uses the wicked to judge the wicked. Understand that. Everything that is about to occur needs to occur. And many, many, many of the brethren are still needing to wake up and come into the sheepfold. And so they refuse now, but they won't during the trib. All those lies that you've heard, I was one of them, that the rapture is going to happen and you're going to escape it because you believe in Jesus. And those who rejected will stay here and have their heads cut off if they don't reject the Messiah. Well, that's lies. There's nothing in the Bible that says that. There's nothing in the Word that says that, Mishpaka. Nothing. Nothing. They take words and they make a word play and they become a religion. And that is what's happening. We're not supposed to be swept away by the many doctrines, right? The winds of doctrines, swept away by them. We were warned that what is written in this word in the beginning, in the very beginning, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, right? Though that is his Torah, that is his word of life. The commandments are his morals. They should be on our hearts, and the only way that they can be lifted into and out of our heart and come alive is with a brand new heart, being born from above. Spirit, water and spirit, being born of water and of spirit. It's the only way you can get into the kingdom. Don't believe anyone when they say that it's not about that anymore. That is a lie from the enemy. And a lot of doctrines are pushing that. When the word is clear, you must be born of water and of spirit in order, reborn, it says, in order to inherit the kingdom. Religion has picked up a Hindu mindset. What do I mean by that? People are waiting to die to go to a heavenly place, whatever their place looks like in their head. And then you've got the many who, quote unquote, supposedly died and quote unquote, supposedly went to heaven and saw all their loved ones, right? Greeting them at a huge gate. There's a lot of heresy out there. There's a lot of falseness out there. Your spirit goes somewhere. Your body lays in the ground. It lays in Sheol, is what it says. You're going to be in a chamber. You want to be in the chamber of peace, not of unrest. Yes, when Yahusha died, he broke the chains of death, and he stole the keys of death. And those who overcome in his name will receive what he has, and that's everlasting life. All things aren't completed yet. Revelations 12 says, those who die in him will sleep in everlasting peace or shalom until the end, where they are raised from the grave. So you decide. What does that mean? I mean, it's right there. I have been tossing this around in my head, like, what does this look like? What does death look like? What are we doing? What are we doing? Baruch makes it very clear. Not Baruch, Esdras, second Esdras. The 7 ways of righteous death and the 7 ways of the unrighteous death. A lot of people think, because if you believe upon Jesus, Yeshua, Yahushua, however you want to say it, Yahweh, mostly people that say Jesus will say this. He is our righteousness, so we don't have to be righteous. Well, then you're not going to be raised. You can't say that. You can't throw out the old and just take the new. It's the same Alhim, you know him as God, from the beginning to the end. There's not a new one that was placed. Dispensational theology is absolutely horrible and horrendous in what is taught. Replacement theology is also taught. And it's disgusting, actually. And the Father is not there, and neither is his Son. They are not there. They are not in these churches, these buildings, these religious systems. It's a system that works to keep people divided and away from the truth. When the truth is right sitting on their lap every time they grab that word, if they grab the word and they put it on their lap and they're told to open it up, most don't. Most don't. Most are told a scripture, not even a scripture, a verse, and then they're told a story, a funny story, or a great story, or a compelling story, or something that, draws them in and makes them go, oh, in a little bit of history. And then that's it. Let's go watch football. That's literally church. It's disgusting. And as much as the kingdom is coming for his spotless bride, which says it right in the word. If you were to open your word, you would know that. There's going to be damnation and horrible things for those who reject his truth. And there's a lot of people, a lot of souls being pulled from the pole pit. They're being pulled into the pit. That's why they call it a pulpit. A lot of dead burying the dead is what our Messiah would have said. Let the dead bury the dead. Blind guides leading the blind astray. It is very sad. It's very, 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 very sad. When I go by a church, I get angry. I cry. I mostly get angry now because I'm in a place where pride, LGBTQ plus 50, whatever they added to it, is welcomed with the biggest hugs. And I mean, they roll out that carpet straight into the church. That's how you know that these places are not, and I repeat, are not of the Father or the Master. Absolutely not. I've had someone say that there are many ways, Tammy, many ways to the Father. And I was like, no, there's not. There's one way, and it's through the Messiah. But when you look at how the Messiah walks, shouldn't you walk like him as well? Or are you going to stay walking as a Baptist? Or are you going to stay walking as a Catholic? Or are you going to stay walking as a Methodist? Or are you going to stay walking as a Unitarian? What are you going to walk as? Seventh-day Adventist, this or that. And you're all divided, every one of you. You can't sit at a table and actually agree because each one of your doctrines disagree with the word. And so a house divided will not stand. You understand? It won't. And you are about to fall, a great fall. The rocks cry out. Go look at yourself at a cemetery and go see how many rocks are crying out because they died in vain. They died believing a lie. They died passionately believing that they were going to go to some sky god and be in some sky paradise. They didn't even read their own word. Their own word convicts them. I don't know what to say anymore when someone dies and their loved one comes up to me and they're like, well, they're in a better place. And I'm thinking to myself, no, they are not. No, they are not. Though a part of me says I cannot even say that because it's not up to me to even judge because we don't get to judge where we go, where people go. That's totally Father. That's totally Yahshua. However, you can also judge by a fruit. And the word is very clear. For the transgression of the law is sin. Is sin. What is sin? Sin brings death. The sin is the transgression of the law. It isn't smoking a cigarette. It isn't drinking too much coffee. It isn't even swearing, okay? Yes, those things can be cleaned up by the Father, and they do when you're on your walk and you're sincere and you're true. Your mouth will be cleaned up. You'll stop smoking. You'll stop taking pharmakeia. You'll stop doing all these awful, wicked, evil things that are doing awful, wicked, evil things to your body. But the transgression of sin is the law, otherwise known as the Torah. That, brothers and sisters, is sin. And many of you don't even know what the law is. A lot of you don't even know what the 10 Commandments are. You can't even mouth them. What a beautiful dragonfly. It's sad. It's really sad. People want to just be comforted and have their ears tickled. And they don't want to open up their word, and they don't want to see that. They just don't want to see what they have to do to obtain eternal life. They think just believing on the Messiah, or they say the Christ, will give you eternal life. Yes, it will. But then he says, deny your flesh, take up your stake, and yours may say cross, and follow me. Anyone who loves their mothers, their brothers, their fathers, their sisters, their husbands, or their wives more than me is not worthy of me. Harsh words, you say. I didn't say it. Yahusha said it. Jesus said it. What does that mean? Does that mean you have to hate your brother? No, it does not mean that. It means that if you're not following to please your mother, your brother, your sister, your father, your wife, your husband, your aunts, your uncles, if you're not following him in his true way because of all of these people, then what did he say? Those who deny me, I will deny in front of the Father. This is real talk, you guys. We have much to do. And then he gives a prescription on who his true 144 are. And who aren't. And the ones who aren't, he says, where were you when I was naked? Where were you when I needed clothing? Where were you when I needed food? Where were you when I needed drink? Where were you when I was sick? Where were you when I was in prison? And they replied, what do you mean, where were we? When were you sick? When were you naked? When were you thirsty? When were you hungry? When were you in prison? And he says, truly, truly, I tell you, I don't even know you. Did you hear that? He doesn't know you? Do you want to hear that? Do you really want to hear that? Do you really want to stay in what you think is right? Because you're so prideful and you think, well, what I was inherited from childhood is what is correct. But is it? Have you even opened your word and have you asked the Father, or do you keep continuing to ask your pastor or your brothers and sisters in the church who are also being highly led astray and blind as you are blind? I mean, do you really want to hear, go away, I don't know you, and the door closes in your face? Do you really want to hear that? Ask yourself that. What a grave thing. I can't even imagine. That is what saved me, I read that and I was like, whoa. And that just threw me off my axle. I'm cleaning over here. Sorry. Getting rid of all dead. Doesn't have to be like this. You need to come into the sheepfold. Or you can come in, if you're not the third that perishes. And how do you know you're not the third that perishes? You have no idea if you're in that group or not. So why don't you ready your soul? Do you know 100% that you are born of water and of spirit? And before you say, oh, yes, for many who are in the church systems, many of you do get immersed by water, usually in a pool or in a hot tub at the back of a church. But are you born from above? That's a new heart. And you know you're born from above when all of a sudden you start looking at yourself and you want to change. You want to change the way you dress. You want to change the way you speak. You want to change the way you hear. You want to change the way you look, or the way you look at things. You are changing your walk. Your walk is being changed and refined. And that is actually Father doing that. He's pricking your heart, and he is literally removing all the dross and the icky and the muck that you've collected since birth, because a lot of us were given into these things since birth. And he is correcting you now. So now you're in your wilderness and you're being corrected and changed. You are forever changed. You are not the same. You are not the same. You're not going to be the same person after you are born from above. You are going to be different. Like 100% different. You've got to understand this. Ask yourself, are you? Are you? If the Messiah was to come back right now, would you be ready? Or would you be the one getting the door closed in your face? Stop watching the Left Behind movies. Stop it. Those are lies. Lies. Absolute lies. Everybody goes through the tribulation. FYI. Everyone does. Everyone. I've had someone actually tell me, if you're going to believe like that, you're going to be left behind and you're going to be in trouble. I'll see you there. And then I'll ask you, do you still believe that? When you're in tribulation. Ready your soul. Nowhere in the word does it say that you're going to be lifted up out of here. It says his saints are sealed before the grass and the trees and are harmed by the locusts, by the plagues. It says his people are sealed before anything of these plagues are let loose. That's what it says. Go read Revelations and read it with new eyes. Ask Father to show you. Ask him to show you. Stop looking on Google. Well, what does this mean in Revelation 13:5? Stop asking man and sit at the feet of the one. This is what born from above means. You will have a new spirit, and the spirit of truth will be in you. So you will be corrected and shown the truth while you're reading the word, and you won't even need a man or a woman to guide you. Isn't that amazing? This way you know that you'll be on the truth and you won't be confused or confuzzled with other people's understandings, and then you won't have to buy 1,000 books to go along with those understandings, and next thing you know, you're really, really, really gone off the deep end. And then you have all of those theories and all of those thoughts and all of those crazy yuckiness like stacked up in your head, and you can't even see the truth. And now you have an even thicker veil over your eyes. So when someone actually comes to tell you what the truth is and even shows it and proves it in the word, you don't want to see it because your pastor didn't tell you that. I'm going to tell you this. If your pastor is sitting on that pulpit and he is not telling you the truth, the whole word in its entirety, and if he's not telling you to keep the commandments, and if he is not telling you that you need to eat a proper meal, a proper diet according to the word, that you need to be born from above and from water, then that pastor is going to take you with him into Sheol, the unrest. You don't want to be there. Because when you're lifted out and you're risen again at the end, you're going to be thrown into the pit. See, the lawless one is already here, and many are already following it. And they're waiting for some weird lawless one to come. And I think it's funny because it's like, what lawless? I mean, ask yourself, the lawless one. The lawless one of what? I mean, ask yourself, what law is he breaking? Obviously, the Father's law. He is a lawless one. So there is a Jesus being pushed, and has been for a very long time, that breaks laws. Because he fulfilled the whole thing, right? So you don't have to do any of it. You can just eat whatever you want, do whatever you want, be whoever you want. You are your own God. That's literally what you're walking as right now. You are walking as Satan's little apprentices. Love thyself. That's what Satan teaches. Hashatan. We're in a world full of little gods. Everyone wants to be a god. Everyone wants to be worshipped. Everyone wants to be praised. Everyone wants to be right. I have my own way to get to the Father. Do not tell me that I can't do that. Well, pride comes before a fall. Hence the pride movement coming before the fall, the great fall. I could go all day. I could make this really long. I love you all. I know many of you already know this, but I'm not giving this to you. I'm giving it to those who are on the fence of what they should do, and I'm giving it to those who refuse to change. Well, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Prepare the way of our Messiah. He is only coming back for a spotless bride. Read your word. He is not coming back for a bride that is full of sinners and does whatever they want and worships themselves in a world that worships themselves. He comes back with fire, molten fire. And he doesn't want you to perish. And neither do I. I want you to join in and come out of the deception. I want you to wake up. He wants you to wake up. He wants you to know the truth. And it's in your word. Just open it. It's even in the Catholic Bible. I read it. So you have no excuses. These New Age Bibles, they have manipulated them and changed them to fit their agenda. Get yourself an old word, an old Bible. because his truth are in them. Don't get yourself an AI generated Bible. Everything has been manipulated and changed. And woe to anyone who changes his words or adds to them or takes away. It ain't going to be good for them. It says that in Deuteronomy, and it says that in Revelation. 2 places it says that. You are loved. Shalom, shalom.